Hello, you're listening to the Charles Bonnet Syndrome podcast. My name is Shaimond, and today's special guest is Evelyn Lewis. She is 66 years old, and she is a wife, a mother, a grandmother, and I understand recently a great-grandmother. And she has CBS, and she would like to share her story. So how are you doing today, Evelyn?
Oh, I'm doing fine. Thank you.
Thanks so much for agreeing to be on the podcast and share your story. I really look forward to talking with you today.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be here.
As most of the listeners know, in order to have CBS, you have to have a visual impairment. So if you can start by talking about what is the eye condition that you have and how long have you had it?
Okay, so I was born with congenital cataracts. I was born with something called Aniridia, and that's when you're born without the iris. I only have the stem of the iris. And the iris is something, it's like a shutter that closes down when the light comes into the back of the eye. So I was born without that. And so because of that, I'm light sensitive and my eyes close automatically when light tries to come in to my eyes. I had a lot of difficulty with dealing with being out in the sun and everything like that, and just sunlight. It was just difficult for me. But I was legally blind when I was born. Uh, had some sight, was able to see colors, things like that. But like reading books and like seeing things far away, that was very difficult for me. I was nearsighted and reading small print, and um, I had to see things close up. So that's my eye condition there.
Oh, wow. I never heard of Aniridia, but I'm not a doctor or a medical professional, so there's many things that I haven't heard of. But it's just amazing that the mind and the eyes and the body is so complex and there's so many conditions and so many things that can happen. I'm grateful that you had eyesight for some time. Do you still have eyesight now or has it diminished?
No, I just have a little bit of light perception. Over the years, I've had different things happen to my eyes. In '04, both corneas and both eyes, they went out on me. So I had to have cornea transplants. And they failed. A year or so later, they failed. So I had to have cornea transplants again, which they were artificial this time. They were artificial, called Boston K-Pro, and I still have those in now. And after that, shortly after that, I was dealing with glaucoma at the same time, and just different things happening where the glaucoma was giving me trouble. And so I had to deal with that from '08, from 2008 until 2017. And it was getting so bad that I had to have injections in the eye and everything. And because of having the injections, I ended up with a retina detachment in my left eye. And so after they did the surgery of the retina, they thought the vision would probably come back, but it did not. In my right eye, after the cornea transplant, my right eye did not receive any sight after that. So I was basically like for a few years just using one eye or just seeing out of one eye. But then after the retina surgery, then I lost my sight. So it's been since, I say about since COVID, since 2019. Yeah, I've been dealing with this. So that's where I am right now. I have a little bit of light perception left.
Oh, that's some journey. How did you cope with all of that?
It was it was difficult, but I just dealt with it. I was gonna be a student at the Perkins School for the Blind, but for some reason my mother didn't enroll me there, and I ended up going to another school that I was in a class with other children that had vision impairments, and there was like 6 or 7 of us in a class. That was in the 6th grade during that time, but it was interesting to find out that there were other children that had other eye conditions as well as myself. Felt like I wasn't alone, so that was a good thing.
Yeah, that's usually a good thing to find out that you're not alone. Whatever situation you're going through, whatever condition you have, it's something about community and just realizing, wow, there's other people that I can identify with. So, did you stay at that school throughout your whole schooling years, or was it a temporary
No,
thing?
I did not. In the seventh grade, they put me in mainstream, as they call it. And then I moved to Georgia. And the school that I went to in Georgia, they had no special needs services for me at all. So I was on my own and I had to, do the best I could. And I would go home every day with a bad headache from trying to read the books and from trying to read what was on the board. And yeah, so I went through high school dealing with that. But I was a good student. I got A's and B's in school.
Wow, that's such a tough situation. I'm so sorry to hear that. And that's the unfortunate thing. There's pros and cons to everything in life, but when you go to a different school district and a different state and a different environment, some people or some districts are less accommodating than others, but you made
Yes.
it through. So, when did you first start experiencing symptoms of CBS, and how did you feel about that before? I'm assuming you didn't know what it was at first, like most
I
people. Can you talk
didn't.
about that?
I didn't know what it was. And as soon as my retina was detached, I used to see floaters, large floaters, small floaters floating around, and I didn't know what that was. And I had to go on YouTube and look up retina detachment, and I found out that's why I had those floaters. But then after they did the surgery, those floaters went away, and then I started seeing different things that I wasn't sure of what it was. And it's really strange that I saw these faces of babies, little African American babies. And first I'm thinking to myself, okay, God is trying to show me something. God is showing me some babies. Maybe I need to do something to help some babies or donate some money or something. I'm thinking this is what's going on. But
Yeah.
as I go to my doctor and I tell him I'm seeing this and I'm seeing that, and he says this must be Charles Bonnet Syndrome. He didn't give me any information on it. He didn't tell me to go look it up or anything. He didn't give me any information. He just said this is, and this is my retina doctor who just, so anyway, I was kind of like left on my own to try to find out what Charles Bonnet syndrome was about. And when I lost my sight, it was devastating for me. And I was concerned that I was going to have like deep depression. I thought I was going to have a nervous breakdown. So I started looking for therapists, and I talked to a couple of therapists. One lady, she was okay. She tried to help me and try to be positive, but I wasn't getting the help that I needed. I talked to this guy who was a therapist, and he suggested that I talk to my husband about losing my sight or either just having a good cry in the shower because I told him how devastating I was about this. And so I needed to talk to him and have him discuss it with me and let me just pour out my soul to him. But I wasn't getting that kind of feedback or whatever. There was an experience where I was seeing four women, blonde haired women, and I kept seeing them and I didn't know what it was. And so I happened to be at church one night and I happened to tell my pastor after service, I told him I'm seeing these four blonde haired women. And so he prayed for me and he laid hands on me and he prayed and he said, you'll never see them again. And he was right. I never saw them again after that. But right after the retina surgery, that's when I started having episodes and seeing hallucinations and different things like that. And it was terrible because it was from the time I woke up in the morning until the time I fell asleep at night. And the only way I could get relief is to go to sleep.
Wow.
And when I woke up in the morning, I would see these rows of eyes, just different rows of eyes, just looking at me, moving, blinking, just, and that would last for an hour or so until and as I'm trying to get on with my day and get myself ready for the day and everything. And so it would fade away and it would turn into something else, like groups of people or whatever. So I've seen a lot and dealt with a lot, but it's not as terrifying or annoying now as it was then. I do get some relief now.
Wow, what a story. I do want to go back to your retina surgery. You said you had a retina surgery and then you started experiencing CBS either after that or more as a result of that, if I understood it right. When you had that retina surgery, was it a success? And did you lose some of your visual acuity, or what happened as far as visually after that surgery?
What they did was they put oil in my eye to kind of plump it up a little bit because my eye pressure was so low that I wasn't getting the vision that I needed to get. So they thought putting oil in the eye would help it. And it did not really raise the eye pressure. It didn't really help. So I did not get the vision back that I thought that I would or that they thought I would. Like I said, the floaters left, but it was different things that I saw.
It's interesting because the surgery was a success. You didn't necessarily gain vision. The floaters went away, but you started experiencing Charles Bonnet. And I've been fortunate enough to be in probably hundreds of support groups now over the years, listening to people talk about the Charles Bonnet syndrome that they have. And I've actually interviewed dozens of people. And that seems to be a current theme, that someone will have an eye surgery and the eye surgery will even be a success, where like they can remove a cataracts and things are much more clear, or they can have glaucoma and the eye pressure would either improve or decrease, or however it may be, it will be a success, but they will still come away from that surgery having Charles Bonnet, experiencing Charles Bonnet syndrome. And that's interesting. I don't know if there are any clinicians listening or any researchers listening why that tends to happen. It doesn't, I can't say it always happens, but it happens quite enough. So that is really interesting. I don't know if it's the circumstances of the surgery, it's the stress of it, or there's more research that needs to be done.
Yes, I think more research really needs to be done on that matter. Yeah.
Yeah. So how long have you been experiencing Charles Bonnet syndrome, you would say?
Okay, so I'm 66 now. So when I turned 60, I had no sight or just very little light perception. So starting then, so I would say about 6 years ago, it'd be 6 years ago in June, and it's June now. I just know that during that year, during Father's Day, I noticed that I didn't have any vision at that time. So my vision was gone during Father's Day. We're going to be going into Father's Day in a few weeks. So it'll be 6 years then.
What a
Year.
journey. That's a long time to have the condition. I've heard about people that had it longer. So I'm definitely curious about your progression, but I want to back up to your doctor. I think it was a retina specialist that told you, oh, that's probably Charles Bonnet syndrome. But then they
Yeah,
didn't tell you where to go. They didn't give you any resources. You were kind of on your own. But
nothing.
that is a little bit unique because a lot of people that I speak to go to the doctor and the doctor doesn't know what's going on, or may even misdiagnose them for dementia or something like that. But at least this doctor was aware of the condition. So that is
Yes,
unique in of itself. So at least you had something to go
that's good.
away
At least
with
he
and
told me
research.
something of what he thought it was that could help me to go and look it up and find out for myself what it's all about.
Yeah. So can you talk about your progression through the 6 years? How has it been? Is it intensifying? Is it decreasing? And how have you been coping with it?
When I first started with this hallucination, I would mention it to my granddaughters, Charles Bonnet, hoping that they would look it up and find out what it is and what it's about. I would mention it to some people in my prayer group, or I would mention it at church, and no one really seemed to conversate with me, about it. They didn't ask questions. So I kind of kept these episodes to myself. I just dealt with it quietly. I have a caregiver. She comes and she helps us out, me and my husband, a few times a week, but I don't even share it with her. I just deal with it on a daily basis. And from the beginning, it was, like I said, it was from the time I woke up in the morning until I went to sleep at night. And that was the only time I really got relief from it. And it was terrible because it would be groups of people. And what it looks like is like a TV screen or a movie screen that I'm looking at, and these people are there, or either it's different like picture frames hanging on the wall, or either it would be like cars moving down the street and just like a lot of traffic or something. Or I would also see like a large building with a large clock on it and the hands moving and different things like that. I've also seen like big orange, pretty roses with the blue background. I've seen different things over the years. I'd say in the last year, it's gotten better. They're not as frequent because, like I said, I thought I was going to have a nervous breakdown. So when I didn't get the help that I needed from these therapists, they gave me a list of doctors that I can contact. So I contacted this one doctor, went to see him. He was a psychiatrist. So I was thinking that I could get help from him or just sit down and talk to him about what I was dealing with. And I was able to talk with him. And the good thing about it is that he had a client or a patient also experienced Charles Bonnet. But this man was 90 years old at the time. He put him on medication and eventually went away. So he wanted me and this man to meet, but it didn't happen because the man passed away before we could meet each other. But
Wow.
that's what was going on then.
It's unfortunate to have Charles Bonnet Syndrome and to have visual impairments. That is a fact. You're a strong woman. You're getting through it. But I do want to say that you're lucky that the retina doctor that you went to knew what the condition was, at least gave you something that you can research. And then the psychiatrist that you went to knew what the condition was and actually treated someone with this condition. Because that's extremely rare for even one doctor to know, but let alone two doctors. So that is really something. I do want to talk about that because Charles Bonnet Syndrome, according to all the research as of today, which I support the research and I agree with it, is not a mental health condition. It's kind of manifests itself as a mental health condition because you're seeing hallucinations, but it's for medical reasons because of the lack of the visual input in your mind. But the stress of having Charles Bonnet Syndrome can cause anxiety or sleep deprivation or many other things. And just because you have Charles Bonnet Syndrome doesn't mean you don't have something else, or maybe you just need a little more help in general. So I want to commend you for reaching out to a psychiatrist because it's like a stigma for reaching out again to a psychiatrist. They're there to help you.
That's
And it
right.
won't hurt to talk. So can you talk about that? First of all, if there's anyone that's listening to this and they may have CBS and they are having a tough time, what would you say to them about even considering seeing a psychiatrist? What are some of the benefits, or what would you say to that first off?
I would say, yes, I think that it would be a good idea to contact a psychiatrist, someone that you look for and someone that you feel like you may be able to trust to talk to about what you're dealing with because it is stressful to deal with this from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep. And then if you're having insomnia or whatever like that, then you're really not getting any relief. And that is stressful. That could lead to anxiety and other things like that, and also paranoia. And so you may need to talk to someone about what you're dealing with. If you're not involved in a support group or something, or some other, if you don't have family members or someone that you can share this with, you may want to seek out help from other places like a doctor or psychiatrist. And it will be helpful because some of them may know about medications that can help. I know that my doctor, he put me on a certain medication, and it took a while. I think it took about a year or so before I really saw results and things got better. And I would just say, yes, if you feel like you would like someone to talk to and someone that you can confide in, yes, take the time to do it. Look for someone that you can feel comfortable with.
Thanks for sharing that story. And that's so important because there generally is not a medicine that's specifically for CBS, but even people like Judith Potts, who is the founder of Esme's Umbrella, she has information based off what doctors have said. And these researchers have said that sometimes you have so much stress and it causes so much torment and anguish and horror that you may have to seek some kind of a medicine to deal with some of the effects of having the condition. But obviously, since I'm not a doctor, neither are you, you speak to your doctor and do what's best for you, but at least consider trying to get some additional help if you need it, because doctors are there to help you. And I appreciate you sharing your story. That talks about patience also, because you said the particular medicine he put you on took some time, but you started seeing some benefits from it. So thank you for your patience. And that is really something that you need, especially when you have Charles Bonnet Syndrome.
I went to him because, like I said, I don't know why. I thought I was going to slip into a deep depression, but I didn't. And I'm so thankful to God that I'm active in church and I'm active in the community. And there's something called the Community Center for the Blind and Visually Impaired in my city. And so I am active in that. I go there and I have classes there and I go to some support groups there, and it helps me staying active, staying busy, continuing on with your life helps, because if you just stay stuck in your room and in your life and in your house dealing with Charles Bonnet, it can wear you out. You need an outlet. You need a way of just relieving yourself.
Your story is so fascinating because the more I hear, the more I just commend you for what you said, because I think about the power of being proactive, because that's why nowadays they say, they meaning medical professionals and all the researchers say, you got to go to the doctors at least once a year to get your checkup, because if your blood work's not right, then they can look into it and see what else is going on. And many people have like conditions, whether it's diabetes or whatever the case may be. I don't want to start naming conditions, and they don't even know it. So being proactive, it's helpful, and it's easy to address something when you deal with it proactively, and then instead of waiting until you have it. So for you to say, I thought I would be depressed because I was losing my sight and because of the things going on in my life, so I sought help before it even got to that. And maybe by you seeking help, that prevented it from getting there. So that is interesting, because once you're in that depressive state, it could have potentially been a little more difficult. And that is so powerful that you can say that, hey, I want to be proactive here. Also, it reminds me of when sometime if you tell someone that, because I'm married and I know other people that are married, and if you say, oh, I'm taking couples therapy there, what's the matter with you guys? No, sometimes it could be some issues going on, but sometimes you want to just make sure that you keep the communication going, that you work on your relationship. You don't wait until there's a problem. You may have a tune-up or a check-in or something like that. So I just wanted to
Yes.
commend you on that.
I am also caring for my husband. He'll be 70 in November, and he was diagnosed in March with dementia. He has a condition
Wow.
called ataxia. And because of ataxia, he has this thing where sometimes he loses his balance and he falls. And sometimes it happens in spurts. It just happens in certain like time frames. And he'll just have these times where he'll fall and he'll lose his balance. And part of that is that he has memory loss from that. And so I know that it's not all dementia, it has to do with the ataxia. So, what I do is I have to, because of his short term memory loss, I have to make sure that I keep his medicine on my side of the room. I make sure I give him his medicine at the right time. If I take mine, okay, it's time for you to take yours. And so I'm just trying to care for him as well. We try to help each other as much as we can.
That's not easy when you have your own concerns or your own challenges or disability. I don't want to, some people don't like that term. And then you're taking care of someone else, but you find ways to do it. You're a woman of faith, and it sounds like you have a support system and a church behind you. And, that's really great. It's really interesting what you said about the story where you you saw some women and they were hallucination. You admitted that, and you went to your pastor and you said, hey, I'm seeing these women, and he prayed with you. First of all, you are really the type to seek help and to not keep secrets. Because some people say you're sick as your secrets, and some people say your mess is your ministry, so you get it out there. And he prayed for you and said, you're never going to experience that again. And you didn't experience that again. And that was interesting. Now, you still experience CBS, but you didn't experience that. And that is really interesting. And that makes me think about, because this is not like a religious podcast, so I'm not going to go down that, even though I believe in God, I'm not going to go down that avenue. But it makes me realize, whether you're religious or not, most people will acknowledge that we live in the natural world and the spiritual world. There's two sides, and you always got to wonder to what extent is some of these things more than just beyond just the natural. And I don't mean in a spooky way. Even if you're just someone who doesn't believe in God, you realize that there's a spirit side to things. That's just really interesting when I think about that situation and how that played out.
I started out, praying at home, like dealing with these images that I saw and just trying to pray them away, or my Bible or whatever. And sometimes praying them away would cause it to change and to turn into something else. But I think it was, I don't know, a mind over matter or whatever. So now what my psychiatrist is telling me to do, because what I started to do last month, I started to time when these episodes would show up. I started to time if it happened after I ate or in the morning or in the evening. And so he told me, don't waste your time doing that, because I'd really rather you don't do that. He said, I'd rather you ignore them. He said, don't give them any power. If you give them power when you concentrate on them and wonder how long they're going to last and time them and such the hour or whatever, you're paying more attention to them. So I told him I put my music on, I have earphones, I play music, or I listen to the TV or listen to it or something like that. That's what I'm doing now. I'm just spending time listening to my music more, and I crochet, so I take time to crochet and make my blankets and different things like that. So I'm not focusing in on the images or whatever they are.
And that's good that your psychiatrist can come along beside you and give you those tips. And that's what happens when you're transparent and you know someone that you can trust, whether it's a medical professional, whether it's someone that you know has a good head on their shoulders and they really care about you and have your best interest. And you can tell when something's not right or you don't feel right about something, and that sounds like some good sound advice. Some people, when they have the severe type of CBS and they see horrific things, they want to attach meaning to the hallucinations. And they may say something like, this particular person is here for this reason, or maybe they want to intimidate me, or if I'm around these types of people, they may affect my CBS or put something on me or transfer something to me, or this is CBS is in my life because of this reason, and if I didn't do this, I wouldn't. Like, what are your thoughts about people that put meaning to things? And I understand this is just human nature and they don't mean harm, but sometimes that could potentially backfire when you give meaning to something that's not really there and that isn't trying to hurt you, and that even though when you feel like it's trying to hurt you, it actually hasn't hurt you when you look back on your life.
I haven't really experienced anything that's really horrible or horrific or scary or frightening. But I would say to be careful about trying to say this one is here for this and this is here for that to harm me, or I have to be careful about being around these people because this will cause hallucinations. I think you're stressing yourself out doing things like that, or worrying about if being around certain people will kind of thing, or these images are here to hurt me, because you're causing more stress and more anxiety yourself. I mean,
Wow.
that's
Thank you for
that's what
sharing
I
that.
would think.
And you are someone that has lived with this for 6 years, and you've lived with other challenges, because everybody in life has challenges. So you can speak from
Yes.
firsthand experiences. So I'm just glad that you're sharing your perspective, and I'm sure someone is listening to this because, by the grace of God, thousands of people have listened to this podcast, and I hope it continues to attract listeners and can help people because whether you have CBS, and that's the most important because this podcast is for you, or whether you're a caregiver of someone with CBS, this podcast is for you, or you're a researcher, just want to connect the dots and have all these stories and have an archive, and to have people that have the condition speak about their experiences so eloquently and just share from their heart. I think it can hopefully make a difference because nobody wants to stress themselves out more. Nobody wants to cause more anxiety, but sometimes the human reaction to things is to
Right.
do that, and that may be more harm than good.
Right. Because they're trying to figure out, why is this happening? Why is this here? Why is this in my room? Why do I see this? And they might be trying to get some kind of understanding of it, but that's really difficult because I didn't understand why I saw those four blonde-haired women and they all look the same. They
Yes.
all dress the same. And I'm like, why am I seeing these people? But then I had to realize that, I don't know, I could have said my caregiver, she has blonde hair. Maybe it has to do with her. But no, I didn't think that way. I just knew that it was aggravating. I didn't want to see him. And I just didn't want to be bothered with different images that I was seeing and not understanding what it really was. And I had to be open to get help because for me to go to my pastor to tell him that, that took something for me.
I've always been told that if you have a straitjacket on and you try to move and get out of the straitjacket, it will get tighter on you. I don't know if that's true or if you've heard that too. And if not that, then there's other cases of this. So let's just
I've
assume
heard
that
that.
something like that is
I've
true.
heard that
Oh, that's
too.
great. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So that's great. We're on the same page. So let's say that you have a straitjacket on you. And I'm not saying give up. I got a straitjacket on. Just give up. Don't live life. Don't try to get out. But got to be careful and strategic about how you go about doing it. And maybe you're not able to get it off at that moment. So sometimes you fight and then you're worse off because it's tighter. You can't breathe. You're gasping for air. You're more uncomfortable. So sometimes fighting is not the best approach.
That makes a lot of sense. Ask for help. If there's someone that you can talk to and share your experiences, and even find a support group where you can share what you're dealing with. It helps to share your story.
Now, I know that you attend the support group that Dr. Gary Cusick hosts. He hosts it every Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time and then at 1 p.m. for the caregivers. Sometimes the first CBS group goes a little longer, and that's okay. But how has that helped you being in that group? And then the second part of the question, have you been a part of any other support groups that have helped you?
That group has helped me so that I can share my experiences I've dealt with and what I'm yet dealing with on a daily basis. And it helps to know that there are other people that are experiencing similar things to what you're experiencing, and to know that it's a safe place where you can go and share and talk and maybe get some feedback, or we can help one in there. And there's a peer-to-peer group that I attend at the Community Center for the Blind that it is also helpful to me too.
So, what would you say if someone's listening to this and they're at their wits' end, they are very frustrated, CBS is getting the best of them, and they're having a bad day, and they're listening to this podcast? What kind of words of wisdom, advice, or encouragement would you give them?
Having someone that you can talk to makes a big difference. And if you can get in touch with a support group of Charles syndrome, then that would be very helpful for you. Try to not stress yourself out because of these hallucinations or these images that you see. I would say for myself, prayer helps me. Reading my Bible helps me. Talking to people that would just listen, someone that would just listen and hear you. It's hard when people are sighted. They don't really understand what it means to be blind or have a vision impairment. But if you can find someone or a group that you can go and be open and share your story with, I think that would be very helpful for you.
Thanks so much for sharing that. I really appreciate that. And that is powerful, your story, all the things that you've been through, your perspective. And are there any things that have helped you cope with Charles Bonnet? You spoke about it already, but I was just curious if there's anything that you do. I know you mentioned listening to music. I know you mentioned prayer, but any other things that have helped you cope with it or maybe have less of it over the years?
I acknowledge it because, like my doctor said, he said acceptance is very important. So you got to accept that it's a part of your life, and but you got to go on and you got to continue to live life. So I try to stay busy and try to stay active, and I relax by crocheting and I make blankets, and so that helps me because my mind is not on what's visual. My mind is on just crochet and making the blanket, and it gives me peace or comfort or whatever. Working with children and helping the children at church, that's an outlet. It helps me to just take my mind off of my problems, myself, and focusing on working with other people and helping other people.
That's so powerful because sometimes when you help other people, you get helped yourself. And if you take your mind out of your situation and your own struggles at that particular moment. So thank you for definitely sharing that. That is so powerful. Now, was this you? I heard someone tell me that they're going back to college to get a degree. Was that you?
I want to finish getting my AA. In 2017, I was dealing with my sister had cancer and my daughter had cancer. So I was in college and I was trying to get my AA. So I dropped out of school so I could help them with their chemo. And now I would like to go back and finish that. I know it's going to be a challenge because now I have very little, sight, but I'm working on that. I'm working on my computer skills and things like that. So
But all these goals and things that you set help you because they help everybody setting a goal and having things to aspire to, having dreams, having things that you want to do. So you can definitely do it. And yeah, I even got my degree at a much later age in life, but yeah, you can definitely do it. So that's encouraging. I'm glad I remember that. It's good to remember these things with the different people that I speak to. Yeah. But this has been so great speaking with you. And I'm sure that your story is going to help someone. Was there anything that you would like to maybe say